Hello everybody, my name is Dratnos, and today we are going to talk about legendaries, because of course, as of the time this video is coming out, you can create your first legendary. The way that you create a legendary is you're going to need two parts. Well, three parts really. You're going to need the legendary power, you're going to need some soul ash, and you're going to want some missives that can be crafted with inscription and bought on the auction house for the two stats you'd most like on that legendary. And you'll bring them all over to the Rune Carver in Torghast, he'll craft you up your legendary, and you're good to go. Now, there's a lot of different confusion about exactly how this works, about different ways that you could end up in trouble making the wrong decision. So in this video, I'm going to start by explaining some of those frequently asked questions, and then I'm going to close the video with some strategies for, what to craft when, that may help you kind of decide what you want to do, because it's not super clear-cut exactly what the most optimal thing to do right now is, and it depends on what kind of player you are. So for starters, legendary ranks. This is something that people are pretty confused by. So if you go on Wowhead, there's the different ranks here on their guide, and they each have a different item level, and it costs a certain amount of soul ash to create. You're also going to need a base legendary item from like leatherworking or blacksmithing or whatever of the appropriate item level as well, which these ones take a lot of resource to learn how to craft. You need to craft a lot of the earlier rank ones, so they'll be a little bit expensive, especially as we first start getting there. But notably, you don't actually need these ones yet, right? We can't craft this. We don't have this much soul ash yet. The only ones you'll be able to craft this week, as the time of the video coming out, is the rank 1 and maybe the rank 2 if there's some more storyline quests that pop up that I wasn't expecting when I recorded this. So, first question is about those ranks. You can craft your rank 1 legendary this week and then upgrade it later instead of just waiting and crafting the rank 4. There's the only benefit you get by waiting to craft the rank 4 in terms of direct benefits is that you won't have to buy multiple different base items, right? Instead of needing to buy the base item at eye level 190 and then a base item at eye level 210 and then a 225, because that's part of the upgrade cost as well. You can just buy a 235 straight up, but that means you'd be waiting a long time to get your legendary. So basically there's no difference between upgrading and just crafting directly at any given rank for legendaries, except for that little bit of gold you save by not needing to get those crafting materials from the auction house a second time, or the more, the cheaper versions as well. But there are still some reasons you may wish to wait on crafting your legendary. Reason 1 is you might just not have it drop yet, which is it's pretty common. There's some of them that only drop in the raid. There are some that drop from specific halls in Torghast. As you may know, Torghast, there are 2 of the different wings open up every week, and some legendaries will drop from specific ones. So you may not have seen your favorite, like yours may drop from Skoldus Hall, and I don't know what'll be open as the time of recording this video, but that may not have opened ever yet. So you may have to wait until then to get your legendary to drop. That will be, I think, next week at the latest, but it could maybe be longer depending on the rotation. You also may have one drop from a raid boss or a world boss, or some weird place like that, and you may just be waiting for a little while, in which case you have to decide, all right, do I want to craft a different legendary for now, maybe the rank 1 of a different legendary to tide me over, and then that will delay my rank 4 of my ideal legendary, but it means that I'll have a rank 1 legendary at least next week. That's one reason to delay. Other reasons to delay are you're worried your legendary might get nerfed, so you just want to delay crafting it as long as possible, or these legendaries can also be put on 2 different slots, right? This can go on feet or back. This can go on shoulder or hands. So you may wish to wait until you get the first reset cleared of the raid, the second reset. This is particularly if you're a super high-end player and you think you can get away without having it for those first resets. You can wait to see if you drop good shoulders or good gloves and then craft your legendary in the other slot to get, more value out of it. This is generally something that I probably wouldn't recommend for very many players at all. I'm not even sure if I'm going to do this, because the benefit you get from having it in a slightly better slot, getting a slightly better item setup, is maybe outweighed by the fact that you might have to pull those bosses longer the first time because you don't have a legendary when you're fighting them, and that's a power level loss. But one thing you can do, at least when you're deciding whether to craft in shoulders or hands, is first of all, you could look and see, all right, are there more stats on shoulders or hands? And you usually would want to go with the slot that has more stats because you're eventually going to upgrade this thing to be the highest item level piece on your kit. And so you'd want this to be on a high item budget piece. So stuff like, stuff like chest pieces and legs have more stat budget than stuff like bracers. So those would be things that you'd want to prioritize perhaps. Or you could actually look through the raid and be like, all right, my best stats are mastery. Are there any good mastery cloaks? And if there's not any, then you could craft it on the cloak slot instead, even if you're maybe giving up a little bit of budgeting, depending on how important it is to have the right stats for your character. So those are some of the decisions you can make when deciding which slot to craft your legendary in. There are other reasons to delay the craft, if you're not sure which legendary you want, if you're not sure which spec you're going to play. But for most players, I would recommend get your rank 1 legendary. It can be okay to craft a bunch of rank 1s as your first crafts instead of getting anything up to rank 4. You're only giving up on some item levels on an item slot. You're not actually empowering the effect of the legendary by upgrading the ranks. But it's just nice to have it. So for most players, I would recommend as soon as you can craft your legendary, get one on there. If you're a super high-end player, you maybe are instead interested in just crafting one, making sure it's the right one, making sure it's in the right slot, making sure that you wait as long as possible before nerfs, and then making sure that one will get to rank 4 as soon as possible. So if that is your goal, you may wish to avoid spending these extra hits of 1250 Soul Ash to get set up in these next week or two. But for most players, I don't think that is a good strategy. So I would recommend crafting your legendary as soon as you can. And just make sure you pick some good stats, get it into the rune carver here, and you're good to go. Anyways, that's been my little look here at legendaries. Really, you can't go too wrong here. I wouldn't stress too much out about this. Worst case, you're going to fire off an extra 1250 Soul Ash. You get that back in a week eventually, so you're delaying your end game build by a week. You can build all the legendaries you want in this expansion. I think you can even build, if you're worried about making the wrong choice about which slot to build the legendary effect in, pretty sure you can just build it in both eventually anyways. So after a couple months, you will have access to a lot of legendaries as long as you're doing your Torghast. A lot of legendary options. And eventually you can have basically everything that you might ever want. So it's just a question of what you want first, and not a question of being forever behind. There's really not. I see a lot of stress about the Soul Ash and legendary systems in streaming and stuff, and I don't think it's really that warranted, because it's really not like you're falling behind on this many months long grind like you might have with Artifact Power in previous expansions. This is a grind that's very finite to get that first legendary, and there's no difference in power level between somebody who's gotten 5,000 Soul Ash and made their rank 4 legendary, and somebody who's collected 100,000 Soul Ash and made all their legendaries and all their slots. There's no difference in power level as long as you've crafted your best legendary, and so you're fine. There's really nothing to worry about with the Soul Ash min-max. And there's not much you can do anyways. Just do your Torghast, and when it shows up on the mission table, grab it. Anyways, that's been my video on legendaries. Let me know what you think. Hope this helped. Thanks everybody for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.